Hello, wonderful attendees. I'm your host, Dalvinder Kaur from Lovely Professional University. Get ready to dive into today's topic, that is AR, VR, XR, MR, technology and future. Before we proceed further, allow me to introduce the expert of the day, Mr. Arshnoor Singh, Assistant Professor, School of Design, Multimedia, Lovely Professional University, a skilled game designer with a solid background in both technical and professional aspects of game development. His expertise spans across the Unity, C++, and 3D artistry. He has led teams and contributed to various exciting projects, including games on Steam and the Google Play Store. So now I would like to introduce the admission nominee also in this webinar, Mr. Ashish Kumar Sharma, a former journalist turned academic counselor with 10 years of experience, currently serving as a senior officer and territory head in tie-ups and public relations at Lovely Professional University. Before we proceed further, allow me to introduce I'm really sorry. Before we proceed further, in today's session, I would like to request everyone for any questions. You can write in the chat box or in the Q&A box, and same will be addressed from my side in the end of this webinar. And now I hand over the thanks to Mr. Arshnoor Singh, and it would be an absolute delight to listen from him. Over to you, Mr. Arshnoor Singh.
Thank you for the great introduction, and let's start. I will share my screen so that you can take a look at this. Give me just a second. Here we go. I assume that you guys can now see the screen that I'm sharing. Is that correct?
Yes, the screen is visible.
Okay, great. So everybody, welcome. This talk is going to be about AR, VR, XR, and MR, the technology behind these terms, and the future with regards to these technologies. So I will start with AR, right? And before I even get into AR, I'm going to talk about what exactly these words mean, because we know that the R in all of these words stand for reality. But like, what do we mean when we, say these terms? So we will start with AR first. So AR, it stands for augmented reality. It's an acronym for augmented reality. And augmented reality basically means that we are overlaying digital elements on top of physical elements. It's essentially a superposition of digital elements on top of the elements that already exist in the physical world. The important thing in this case is that this is not interaction. It is just superposition. In this superposition, there can be many different kinds of things. For example, let's say that we have a phone camera, right, looking at something. And that phone camera would see what exactly it's looking at. It would detect different kinds of surfaces like planes, maybe vertical surfaces like a wall. And depending upon what the objective of our application is, we can choose to do different things. I will give an example. I have an image here. So take a look at this. You might have to pay attention to what's in the exact iPad that this person is holding, but what's going on is that we have a construction worker who's working at a construction site. And he's holding an iPad in his hand, and he's looking up at practically nothing, right? So if you look right past the worker, there's just some wooden boats and there's not an actual building. But the iPad that has an AR application installed, it can detect where you are by many means. Sometimes it can detect with a GPS signal as the geolocation, the same signal that your Google Maps application uses to help you navigate through different cities. It's sometimes use the same signal. Sometimes it can detect, as I said, planes, walls, things like that. So by knowing where you are, the application constructs a 3D model of a building, and it shows it to you in the iPad. And the advantage of something like this is that in construction and even many other businesses that have similar requirements, workers can use one of these applications and they can look at what they're trying to build. They can see what needs to come next. They can see how much they've completed. There's a lot of different ways that this simple application of just putting a 3D model on a screen that is placed there with respect to where you are can achieve. There's quite a few things. So this is essentially AR. Now, moving on, MR. So MR is another term. M and the MR stands for mixed, and R obviously stands for mixed reality. Reality. So overall, MR is an acronym for mixed reality. Now, this is very similar to AR, right? The only main difference here is that we, as people that exist in the physical world, can interact with the digital elements that are being overlaid. Okay. So we are doing superposition still. That is still happening, but we can interact with the digital elements that are being superimposed. So I will move on to the next slide to give an example so I can explain this even better. So in this image, what we are seeing is that we have this gentleman here who is moving a single vertebra from the 3D model of the skeleton. So this kind of an approach in which, as you can see, it's already first doing AR. We have a 3D model, the skeleton of a human body that is being placed in the digital world. So we are doing superpositions. But when the superposition is done, in MR, you have the option, you have the ability to move things around. So in this case, they're studying medicine. And if they want to look at one specific part of a body clearly in more detail, they can move that part, zoom in, and they can look at it more carefully. Or maybe they can just they're trying to restructure things. And maybe in another field, you're not restructuring the body in MR, that's for sure. But in other fields, let's say something like architecture or construction, you could have an actual map of what you're trying to build. And let's say that as an architect, I'm seeing that would it be better if I have a certain building in this location or in another location? Having technology like that can help visualize this even better. And again, this is just one or two examples. I will show much more examples in this very presentation to help us understand what exactly these technologies are, what they can achieve. So MR, mixed reality, very similar to AR, but along with superposition. Great. Moving forward, we have VR. Right now, VR stands for virtual reality, and this is the one that you've probably heard the most about. So the difference between AR and MR is quite clear, right? The reason I'm talking about them again is because I'm going to draw a parallel here to VR. So coming back to them for a second. So AR is just superposition, right? MR is superposition with interaction. But in VR, we are not there's no superposition at all. We're not superimposing anything. We're not overlaying anything because in VR, there is no concept of the physical world because that's the idea, essentially. You put on VR headset goggles. They don't let you see what's in the physical world. So you're completely looking at things that are in the virtual world. That is essentially the objective with any and all VR applications. That application may be a game, that application may be research, could be construction, could be many other things. I know I've already given the example of construction thrice, but it's one of the fields that is able to use these things well. Let me show you the definition, which is very quick, is that virtual reality, and as I said, fully in the virtual world, no superposition, you're not overlaying things. And in VR, often you use headset, but you also have things like controllers, and you can have some other specialized equipment. And I will talk about that equipment in just a second. Before I will give an example. So what you're seeing here in this image is a person, right? He has these VR goggles on his head, and you can see that these VR goggles, they do not really have a visor, like you can't see through them. They block your actual vision. The only thing you see when you are wearing goggles like that is what the screen inside is showing you. Screen or the projection as to however it works, right? And the second thing that he's holding, so I'm just talking about the equipment here, the input equipment for a VR. He's holding these sticks in both of these hands. Sticks is one way to call them, but you could call them VR controllers. And many different brands make these things. There's Meta equipment available, but the company Meta, the old company that renamed itself from Facebook to Meta, there's many other companies that create equipment for VR, including headsets, controllers, and many other things. So what's happening in this image is that this person who's using this equipment, right? He's controlling a fire extinguisher in this clip, in this video on the TV in the background. Now, this could be a training, right? So you have a person, he's being trained to do a certain thing in a certain situation. This is where VR really shines. We know that VR games these days are getting more and more popular, and I have an example for that too. That's a flight sim. I will get to that in a second. But VR games are getting more and more popular. And the reason for that is that there are some game genres that really benefit from the core intention of virtual reality. The intention being fully immersed in a virtual world, which is one of the main objectives for many games. So it's a pretty good parallel. That's why this started very quickly. Now, what are the other applications is training and research and even sometimes simulation. So simulation, I will show that on this screen right here. What you're seeing is a screenshot of a flight simulator. Now, how does VR essentially relate to simulators? So imagine being a pilot, right? Somebody that is being trained for being a pilot would obviously have to fly a plane. But what if they're still studying and they're not yet ready to be put into a plane? VR is an amazing way to train people to do such complex things. So in this image, you have a lot of radars and a lot of these small equipment that show information about the state that the plane is in. And it's not just the reading of the information, since simulation is also technically interactable, right? You will have buttons that the player can press when they are wearing these VR headsets. Using the controllers, the character that you are playing inside the plane, the character that you're possessing, in a sense, that will be driving the plane in the digital world, right? That character is that character will also have hands. You can control those digital hands with the sticks that I was talking about right here. So those sticks can be used to point and click at various different buttons. And there can be other things as well. For example, a joystick. Now, just like I said, that there's other equipment that many companies provide, along with headsets, sticks. Many companies also provide joysticks, which are very similar to the joysticks that can be found in planes, maybe sometimes in helicopters, maybe in many other vehicles that use a specific kind of joystick. And the objective for that is purely that you can be more immersed in what you're trying to do. Because if I am teaching somebody to, let's say, to fly a helicopter, I don't want them to fly a helicopter using a keyboard, because a real helicopter does not have a keyboard, it has a joystick. So these kind of specialized equipment exist that can be used to teach people how to go about operating certain complex equipment. And VR is incredibly helpful in achieving this. All right. So that was a small, definition and introduction towards VR. And now I'm going to do a quick, small recap about these terms that we just talked about before we move forward. So that recap is going to happen through XR. Why is XR a recap of the other things? Well, that is because the term XR itself, right? It stands for extended reality. And extended reality is a term that acts as an encapsulation for everything else. Basically, it's an umbrella term. AR, VR, MR, they're all a subset of XR. So now, to actually recap what these things were, AR is simply superposition of digital elements on top of physical elements. These digital elements, they can be created using traditional methods. So for example, if it's a 3D model, somebody probably created that 3D model in a software like, Maya, Max, maybe Blender, or any of these softwares. They exported that into a certain type of file. Could be an FBX file, could be the OBJ file. That file is then imported into a software, which can be a game engine or could be something else like maybe Android Studio if the application is being built for Android. Once that model is created inside the engine or the Android Studio application, and then you can create your own functionality, your own code, that this is what this application will do. And then that application is shipped out to many different app stores. And again, this is just superposition on top of the physical world, right? Digital element superposition on top of the physical elements. MR is basically AR, but with interaction. So you have superposition and you have interaction. Now, Of course, sometimes an MR is not fully possible in phones because you have to have some sort of an equipment that can be interacted with, but there are applications that can make that happen. Depends on the kind of application you're using. So until AR and MR, your equipment has a certain amount of overlap, and depending upon exactly what you're trying to make, if you're trying to make something extremely specific or more of certain kind, there may not be some overlap, and sometimes you may even have to design equipment by scratch so that you can show whatever you're trying to show in your application more specifically, right? You can be more precise about what your objective is, what your intention is. Moving on, VR. We just talked about VR, which is the complete immersion in the virtual world. It sounds a little bit, well, a little awkward to say complete immersion in the virtual world, because at the end of the day, you're still sitting in your chair or on your sofa with your VR headsets and your controller. So you're still in the digital world, but you're just not seeing anymore. Moving on, XR, as we just talked about, is an umbrella term, and AR, MR, VR are just subsets. So, metaverse. So, once we have now just discussed what AR, VR, MR are, we are going to go to this term metaverse, which is used quite a bit. You may have seen many people use this term metaverse, but sometimes it is difficult to understand what exactly it means. And I will be very open to admit that many times when people say metaverse, I don't think they mean exactly what metaverse is, because for a long time, metaverse didn't even have a proper definition, because this technology, right, it's advancing at a pretty quick rate. Things change almost every month, every week. So these kind of definitions change. But right now, I'll explain about what a metaverse is. That it is a 3D space. It's a virtual space, all right? Not in the physical world. It's a digital space that you can exist in as 3D avatars. You can exist in the space using an avatar or using some sort of a representation of yourself. To give an example, I will actually go back a few slides to show you a photo really quickly. So this plane simulation. Imagine that instead of you just simulating your plane, imagine you had a completely open world, right? And you could see other people flying planes as well, just like you're flying your plane in the same open 3D space. Let's just say that there are now more people flying their planes. And then by the definition that we just looked at, this whole space in which all of the people exist together as digital avatars or representations of themselves, it would by definition become a metaverse. Now, the reason why I said that the defining it can be a little bit complex is because it's used in so many different contexts. The term, that is, the term metaverse, is used in so many different contexts that it's difficult to keep a track of which is the correct definition of metaverse. And I'll stick to this definition that I just showed you right now. Moving on. And one important thing, I'm so sorry that I skipped this. Important thing is that users exist as 3D avatars that can communicate, right? That is important. So in the example that I gave with planes flying around in one 3D space, if we can communicate with each other through radio, that would be fine. But in other places, we do want to communicate with other people, because if you exist in a 3D space and you can't really interact with others, that's not much use, right? That's the idea of metaverse, that you can exist here like an avatar, which is a representation of yourself. So what I have here are a couple of screenshots, and we'll talk about the top left one first. That screenshot is essentially sort of like a game. There is a game that is not the one that I have a screenshot on, but you may have heard about it. It is called VR Chat. So that is an example of a metaverse. What happens in that game is basically that you have this space, could be like a room where people can play games, like a pool area, maybe it's just a chat room, maybe it's a restaurant location like that, which is completely in digital world, right? It's a 3D restaurant, and people can get into that location as metaverse characters. They can go there, they can sit, they can even order food if the application allows for it. They can talk to other people that are sitting there, and they can have a complete conversation. And that's the first example that I'm giving, right? And as you can see, this is a very entertainment centric example. And it doesn't achieve anything productive. People are just going into a vault, they're having a good time, which is not to say that that's not non-productive. Rejuvenation is productive, that's necessary. But the other more productive part of it is meetings. So right now, we're talking on Zoom, right? Let's say that for some specific reason, right, for some certain requirement, you want to make it so that instead of just talking through Zoom, you want to be able to see the other people like fully, like a representation of themselves. It could be a meeting, could be a discussion, and that is where the second photo comes into play. Instead of having a meeting on Zoom, you could have a meeting in a metaverse environment where you exist as an avatar, and the screen that's being shared would show up in the actual environment, right? You have a screen right there, and you can see it, that it has the meeting graphs and points that they're talking about on that screen. The merits and the disadvantages of these approaches are something that can be discussed, and I will talk about that and near the end of this presentation. But if you have some ideas, just hold that thought. We will get onto it very quickly. Moving on, virtual production. So this is another application of this technology. So now virtual production isn't exactly AR, VR, MR, or XR. It is a slightly different way of using of filming. This is completely for films. This is a very up and coming field, right? And the reason why I have this in a slide, which is about AR, VR, MR, and XR, is that some technology used here is kind of same in the sense of their objective. So in VR, as we saw, that our objective is to fully immerse in a world, right? So that you can feel what it's like to be there. The same concept is also used in films. Moving on, I mean, not moving on, but going forward in this slide, uh, here's a question for you. Have you ever seen the TV show on Disney Plus called The Mandalorian? If you have, and if you like it, I request or I recommend at least to see the behind the scenes of The Mandalorian, how it was shot, right? They didn't go to certain locations to shoot it. They did not go to certain locations to shoot it. They did what's known as a virtual shoot, right? Here's a screenshot of that. So that's right there, main character. And if you look very carefully behind, right, this giant photo, that is not a photo, that is actually a screen. It's a screen like a TV screen, like a huge TV screen. You can even see lights at the top. You see those? So it's a giant TV screen that is on the background, and you have some foreground elements. For example, you have this foot, this path that the character is walking on, right? That's actually there. You have an actual wooden path, but the background fully virtual. And where do we get these backgrounds from? It depends. You can either paint them, or what the Mandalorian did is that they created their backgrounds in Unreal Engine. They created their backgrounds in Unreal Engine. And the best part about that is they can change it in real time. Do you know how when you're playing a game, you can use your mouse to look around? You can do the same thing here. Imagine that your monitor is there in the background, and when you move your mouse, right? When you move your mouse, you're basically looking at different aspects of the environment that has been created. That's what you're essentially doing. So what you're going to do next is you have this environment in which you're shooting, right? And you now can change it at will. Here's how traditional filmmaking works. If you want a scene that is shot in the dark, in the night, you need to take your actors and your entire film crew in an open area where there's actual night, right? You have to shoot at night. But with this, you can just shoot at any given time. All you have to do is create a night scene in Unreal Engine, right? Same for other fields. Like, let's say if you want to shoot behind a certain building, you can just create that building in Unreal Engine, put it on the screen, and you have it right there, right there. And there's another huge advantage of this approach, right? The big advantage, which many actors report, is this. Look at this photo, right? Now you again have a screen. It's a much smaller screen as compared to the last time. It's a much smaller screen, But the issue is that imagine being an actor. Usually, if you have some green screen behind you, right, an actor has to completely imagine what kind of place they're in behind a green screen because the actor can't see. Actor only sees a green cloth that's hanging around him and a bunch of cameras. The big advantage here is that the actor can see exactly the location that he is in the film, right? And they can act better. Many actors that have worked into this environment, they say that it creates a huge difference. So that's the big idea, which is, and that's why I'm talking about this, is because it's very similar to VR. Remember how in VR I said that our objective was that we want to be inside a world, right? We want to be fully immersed. But as an actor, when you're acting, if you're fully immersed through similar objectives of technologies, it can create your final product significantly better. Moving on, future and industry. So we're nearing the end of this presentation. So since we're nearing the end, I will now talk about that thing that I had said before, which is the advantages and disadvantages of this approach. Let me go back really quickly right here. So as you can imagine, in this room, this meeting room that we have, this digital meeting room, the first advantage is that sure, it feels a little bit more personal, right? You can see the other people, how they act, because body language is a big thing. Sometimes people talk with their hands like I am doing right now. So people like to move their hands when they talk. They find that it helps them express better. That can happen with this. But the other difficulty is sometimes a meeting does not need to be this expressive. Sometimes you're just meeting to discuss a few agendas, right? That you want to be quick about, right? You want to be fast for the meeting. You don't want to take more time in a meeting than you have because each workday is 8 hours, right? If it takes you like 15 to 20 minutes just to set up your virtual equipment and then you join a meeting and then the meeting will last like what 10 minutes and then you need another 15 minutes to get rid of the equipment. It's a lot of time taken just to do a small meeting. So both of these approaches, right? The regular meeting in person, this metaverse meeting, or simply a Zoom meeting, they all have their advantages and disadvantages. But the main objective that we know is that the technology exists. It's getting better as we speak. And someday, all right, maybe in the near future, when the equipment is not this heavy, right? It's not this much in volume, it can be much simpler to just hop on into a virtual meeting, do that meeting, and then hop back off like super quickly. So going back towards the end of this presentation, future and industry. So in the future and industry part, what I'm going to talk about is that what are some other industries that I did not talk about yet that use this technology, right? I have some photos that I will show you. And what's the future? What happens next, right? So this is another photo. Uh, what you're seeing here is a doctor performing a surgery on a digital human, right? Well, when I say digital human, it's not a complete human, it's just a leg. So why are we doing this, right? Because there are some things that you just cannot afford to get wrong. A doctor cannot afford to do a surgery incorrectly. Usually, doctors practice these things on either dead bodies that were donated to medicine by the people that were deceased, right? But sometimes some doctors, if you can't arrange a dead body, right, you can create a situation like this. You have the tool. If you look carefully, if you look very carefully at the image, there seems to be that he's holding a drill, but that's not a drill. If you look just behind the drill, you see this circular thing. That's actually the VR controller that we saw much earlier in our slideshow, in the photo in which there was a guy with a fire extinguisher, right? He's holding a VR controller, but the VR headset that he's wearing, right? And his headset, he sees that he's holding a drill and he can see where that drill is going. But in the real world, he's only using a controller. And using this setup, you can measure how accurate this doctor or the surgeon was in trying to do their operation. It can help train doctors before they have to actually do a surgery where there are real stakes. There are other such training as well. For example, military training. I have a photo of that, and I'll talk about military training when that photo comes up. But what you're seeing right now is a photo of Toyota employees right? Uh, Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, you can continue, Mr. Arshnur.
Yeah, just a second. I don't know how it got cut. I think something must
Yeah,
have
there's
happened.
some
Give me,
technical glitch.
yeah, just a second till I share my screen again.
Yes.
Uh, right. Then can you confirm if you can see my
Yes,
screen?
yes, yes. You can continue. It's visible. The
Okay,
screen is visible.
perfect. I am sorry about that. I do not know what happened. So again, talking about Toyota. So what this helps with is that the engineers and the designers that are designing the vehicles, right, they can get up close into different areas and see how sometimes things affect them. You know, sometimes in some cars you have these sections where you can put your water bottle, but your water bottle never fits. Problems like that can be solved with VR because you can create a 3D water bottle, try to fit it in your car, and if it doesn't fit, you know that there was a slight oversight by the designers. And these small kind of things, the experience of being in a vehicle, that's what can be fine-tuned by such things. So moving on, next slide. There we go. So I have a bunch of photos here, right? The photo in the top left, that's basically MR. It's mixed reality, right? You have a projection that's superimposed and you can react to it, right? It's used in education as well. So especially for children, when you teach complex topics like, let's say, maybe vector mathematics, right? When people are in school and the math teacher talks about vector mathematics, often people are just left wondering, what exactly is a vector still? I don't understand. But with VR, right, you can show them that a vector at the end of the day is just an arrow in 3D space. It's a point that is defined relative to another point. That's all a vector is, right? And these kind of complex topics that can be difficult to visualize in normal education methods, they can be made much easier with things like VR or AR or MR, and again, depending upon your exact application. The second image, the one on the top right, that is another automobile designer looking at different parts of a vehicle on from different angles because you already have 3D models. You can do it in 3D applications as well. But for whatever reason, this can also be helpful, right? Because let's say there's some part that you want to look up close and you want to see it in 3D in projected space. It helps maybe with something. So you have the technology for that. Photo at the bottom left, the military training, what I was talking about. So that also is a pretty important field that is, especially in countries like US, it is upcoming, which is that military simulation. If you want your soldiers, right, if you want them to train in something that is quite complex, let's say that you're teaching them how to use something like an artillery or some sort of a sentry gun, right? If you were to have them trained with a real gun right off the start, you're using real ammunition, which costs money. And depending upon what kind of system you're using, it could be costing a small amount of money with respect to a training session, right? So this is where it can help. You can have actual equipment that may look like a gun, that may have the weight of a real gun, so that when the soldier holds that equipment, right? I had those VR controllers. You can have a gun, a VR gun, and it can have the weight of a real gun. So the soldier knows exactly how it would feel when they hold the real thing. It could also have motors inside of it that can give recoil. Um, if you have used like that, you can have mechanical equipment that can provide haptic feedback to make this work. And that's for military training, right? Moving on to the last bit, that is an example of a VR gaming saloon. So you know how you have game shops where you can just go there with your friends, you can play a couple of rounds of some game, maybe something like Mortal Kombat, maybe Street Fighter. You play it and you go back home. You pay for an hour, you play, go back home. Just like that, you have gaming parlors for VR games. They have huge open spaces. You can put VR goggles and you have these VR weapons. They're basically plastic toys that have some equipment in them that can track them. but when you click on them, they have this feedback. So it's a little bit more immersed method of experiencing the games that already exist. So we're at the end of this slideshow. So future and challenges, right? For the future, the biggest thing that is going to happen is that these equipment, right, they're going to become more accessible. Because right now, all of these equipment, let's say you have the money to buy them, you have the money to maintain them, you still need an extremely strong system to run or develop VR titles, right? If I'm working on a VR game, I cannot do it from this laptop that I'm using right now. I need a proper big system that has top of the shelf components. So it just adds the overall cost and it makes it so that these are just not as accessible for an everyday person or an everyday developer. And if you're not even a developer, if you're just a consumer, still buying a VR headset, VR controllers, it is not cheap. So that is the biggest challenge that this industry faces, which is that you have to make these technologies more accessible. Until that is the case, you will see that it's only being used by enthusiasts or people that can afford these or people that have access to these. That's the main thing. And that is the end of the slideshow. Thank you for having me here. I'm going to put myself on mute until prompted.
Thank you so much, Mr. Arshnoor Singh. So now I would request to the admission nominee, Mr. Ashish Kumar Sharma, to be on the screen. Over to you, Mr. Ashish Kumar Sharma.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, Gurvinder. Hello, Ashmuti. You have explained all and the entire things very briefly to our viewers. Now, without taking much time, I would like to share my screen and please confirm whether my screen is visible. Is it visible, Dalwinder?
Yes, you can continue.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for confirming. So let us start with the accreditations and approvals. So this is a thing which I need to flaunt over here. Now, Lovely Professional University is touching its glory. We are NAC A++ university, and we have got 3.68 score on 4-point table scale, which is the highest score in the very first cycle of the accreditation among all the government and private universities. Few other accreditations and approvals are there: Pharmacy Council of India, Architecture, Council of Architecture, the Indian Association of Physiotherapists. Here I want to brief one more thing. Wherever you are studying, whichever the university, whichever the institute you are choosing, you are opting for the higher education, just be sure whether it has that platform capabilities which they can provide you to perform your to nourish your skills at the national level or the international level. Very proudly I can say that we are partners. We are members of Association of Indian Universities, Association of International Association of Universities, IAAU and AIU both. So our students, whosoever having the extra skills, the extra showcasing skills, and if they have that capability to showcase their talent among the young blood, right? So we are the university who are providing them the opportunity to showcase their talent at the national or at the international level. For the recent information, I would like to tell you that our 24 students are participating in Paris Olympics, and out of them, 8 have already won the medal for India, which is really a matter of proud for Lovely Professional University and certainly for the nation. So when it comes to the rankings and awards, the World University Rankings 2023, we have got the 23rd rank in both private and government universities. second in business and economics school, sixth in engineering, eighth in clinical and health, ninth in computer science, and 12th in life sciences. In Woori is World's University with Real Impact ranking. We have got the second rank recently. In Atal ranking of institution on innovation and achievements, we have got third rank. Now, it is very important to study the curriculum, right? But extracurriculum and co-curricular activities are equally important. So we believe in extracurricular activities equally, we believe in the curriculum, and we provide very dynamic and industry-oriented curriculum along with the extracurricular activities. Let us put some light on the extracurricular activities we do provide. In Tokyo Olympics, in 2019 Tokyo Olympics, our students have created the history. 13 students were the part of contingent who has participated in the Tokyo Olympics, and 12 out of 13 LPU students have won the medal. Neeraj Chopra, Bajrang Punia, the then hockey team captain Sardar Manpreet Singh, all were the part of Indian contingent and are the students of LPU. We were the champions at Inter-University Youth Festival at Association of Indian Universities, AIU, New Delhi. We were the first runner-up in the Maka Sports, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Sports Trophy. The glory we have got in 19th Asian Games. And ladies and gentlemen, this was the moment when Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, visited LPU, and the moment was 106th Indian Science Congress. See, I want to tell you about a little bit about the history of Indian Science Congress. Since 1913, India is hosting this event consecutively for year by year for the nation and on some certain focal themes every year. And this was the 106th Indian Science Congress, which was held at the lovely Professional University. And this was the protocol that Prime Minister of the country would open it. So see the level of exposure you are going to get over here in lovely Professional University, apart from the quality education. His Holiness Dalai Lama ji, he was here in one of the convocations to confer the degrees to our brilliant students. In a frame, three gentlemen are there. One is our Honorable Chancellor, Dr. Ashok Mittal, currently a member of Rajya Sabha. And another two are the then presidents of Afghanistan, Shri Hamid Karzai, and the then President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee. They were here in one of the convocations to confer the degrees to our students. Late Shri Arun Jaitley ji, the moment was LPU Startup School when we have inaugurated our venture, in which we are promoting the young talent, the young entrepreneurs, to uplift their confidence of generating employment in the nation, right? So this was the moment when late Shri Arun Jaitley ji has come up to the campus and he has inaugurated the LPU Startup School venture. Shri Venkaiah Naidu ji, he was here on the campus, the then Vice President of the nation. He was here in one of the convocations. Gohar Gopal Das, see the level of exposure we are providing to you in lovely Professional University. He was here in the campus, not just to give you glimpses of the glory, but to share his spiritual experiences and the life experiences to motivate and to uplift your future, right? And of course, who can deny their acquaintance? Mr. Shah Rukh Khan, he was also here in the campus, not just to dance, but to share their lifetime experiences and struggles he has faced during his early years. Mahendra Singh Dhoni, Sonam Kapoor, dance director Prabhu Deva, few other actors, Ranbir Kapoor, Akshay Kumar, and this is one of the best examples that we have set for our extracurricular activities. We have registered our name in Guinness World Record. We have played a Bhangra at the single campus, at a single venue with the largest Bhangra players, largest group of the Bhangra players. This is the infrastructure we do have. Inside auditorium with the capacity of 2,500 people. Such iMac lab you can have in the School of Design, where you can study graphics, where you can study multimedia and animation, right? All these VRs, ARs, UX, UI, everything. In each school, all the schools are having their own libraries, but we do have our central library also, where you can have more than 9 lakh books and you can get the books issued without any cost. This place is the center of the university, and the building in front of you is the shopping mall. We call it Uni Center. Just behind this building, there is a hotel where children of School of Hospitality, they do hands-on practice in the Uni Hotel. Let's go inside the shopping mall. This is the inside view of the shopping mall, where you can meet all your needs inside the campus only. High-tech gymnasium is also available. Even the bowling alley is there. For any contingency, we have 50-bedded hospital inside the campus only. This is an aerial view of Unipolis, where all the giant big concerts are taking place. This is a panoramic view of lovely professional university. Just for the information, I would like to tell you that we are on the 8th spot when it comes to the cleanest and the greenest campus inside the country. Education, when I talk about the education institutes, we are at the 8th spot. You can see the lush green campus. This is a night view of lovely professional university. Now, this is very important for the parents. When you are sending your adolescent to the higher education, lovely professional university is the best home away from your own home, right? You do not need to worry at all. We are a ragging-free campus. Even we are the most safest campus. We have more than 35,000 CCTV cameras around the campus. At every corner, at every nook, we have a surveillance, right? So it is a number more than our nation do have on Indira Gandhi Airport. We have a world-class indoor sports complex. You name a sport, you name a court, and we do have badminton courts. Shooting ranges are there. Very few institutes are there who are offering shooting as a sport. Basketball courts. Even the squash court is there. I hardly know any university who is offering squash court and squash as a sports. World-class swimming pools, where we are preparing our students for the Asian Games. So it is of that level. So this is an aerial view of our indoor sports complex. Now let's go live. I'll tell you how you can search us on the website. This is our website. The URL is lpu.in, www.lpu.in, and this is our homepage. You can see the highest package one of the students have got. Now, very easily, you can search admissions over here after 12th programs, after graduation, after post-graduation, doctoral programs, after diplomas, after 10th programs. When you will search for after 12th programs, you can have a list of programs over here: engineering, management, computer science, commerce. Similarly, design, you can find it here. When you will click on it, design programs will come in front of you: interaction design, interior and furniture design, film and TV production, product and industrial, multimedia and animation, fashion. So let's talk about multimedia and animation. When you'll click on it, you'll get further segregation of multimedia and animation programs. There are 6 programs in multimedia and animation: BSc Design Multimedia, B Design Multimedia, BSc Design Graphics, B Design Graphics. And the difference is of duration. BSc Design Multimedia is of 3 years, B Design Multimedia is of 4 years. And similarly, B Design Gamings and B Design, BSc Design Gaming and B Design Gaming. So let us click on B Design Graphics. I'll share one of the eligibility criterias of design program. One must have 50% aggregate marks in 12th class, and English must be studied as a subject. And subject to qualifying our own entrance exam, that is Lovely Professional University National Entrance and Scholarship Test, LPU NEST. As its name is depicting, LPU NEST National Entrance and Scholarship Test, it is providing you an eligibility qualification and a scholarship as well, right? We do consider UCED exam, CUET exam, NEFT examination, and NET-DAT prelims examination as well. How you can apply? It is very simple. On the home page itself, here is a button of apply now. When you will click on this button, apply now, this page will open. Register and login. Both the options are here only. For registering yourself, you can put your name over here, valid and a working email ID, valid and a working mobile number. You will get a OTP on the both on your registered mobile number. You just need to enter your state, city, gender, qualification, previous qualification, discipline interested in. Let's say you are interested in design programs, so you will enter here 12th program, 12th and design over here. Multimedia and animation. Once you will authorize yourself, you can register yourself. Immediately, credentials will be sent to your registered email ID and your registered phone number. You can log in via your credentials. Even you can log in via your OTP as well. To contact us, you can take a screenshot of this page as well, or I'll narrate you. You can write it down. To contact us, please dial 01824 517 000 and 01824 404404. Our admission counselors, our academic counselors are also available on the WhatsApp. You can chat with them. You just need to ping on 98525 69000. In case of written communication, you can write us an email for the general inquiries at info@lpu.co.in, and for the admission queries, admissions@lpu.co.in. So that's all from my side. Dharvinder, if you have any questions, you can ask.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashish Kumar Sharma. Can we take questions of Mr. Ashnu Singh and Mr. Ashish Kumar Sharma?
Can you hear me?
Yes, of course you can.
Yeah, now let's start with the first question. Gurpreet Singh is asking here, how will advancements in AR, VR, XR, and MR technologies reshape industries such as healthcare, education, and entertainment in the next decade?
So part of that is something that I explained already, which is that there are some things in these industries which are difficult to visualize. So, for example, in healthcare, if you're explaining when the doctors are studying them, if you're teaching them how certain components of the body look, how they are supposed to be operated upon, it helps incredibly if you can provide them an actual visualization of that body part so that they can look at it and they can do something, or not do something, so that they can exactly see how it looks and they can imagine, oh, this is 3D model. This is what the approximate thing will be in real life. And these are the areas where I would, operate upon. That's for medicine. In other fields like entertainment, we're already seeing it. So if you play games on a computer, right, you can go to Steam right now and you can search for VR games. There's a special category for VR games, and in that category, you will be able to see that there's many games that have hundreds and thousands of downloads, and that shows that the entertainment sector in this industry is also expanding. The the idea that you need to be fully immersed in some games can be captured very well by these technologies. So, for example, I'll name there's a game. I don't remember its name. It's not very well known, but it is a game in which a couple of friends, right? They infiltrate a building and they have to retrieve a certain object. Now, a VR version of this game just suddenly becomes so much more captivating because in a regular game, you're just looking at a screen and you're going through, different areas that let's say you go to one room to other room through your computer. That's fine. The most immersive things about that is that the game, what it does on the screen, your headphones, the audio that you hear. But in VR, right, you don't see anything but what's in front of you. Every single corner that you have to look around, every single thing that you have to interact with, it feels a lot more uh, tangible. Like the stakes feel a lot more real. You feel a little bit more scared. If suddenly something pops up, if you get jump scared easily in a screen, you will get jump scared 5 times as worse in VR because it's literally right there when you put on a headset. And yeah, that's how I would explain this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singh. Mr. Ashish, just someone is asking here, do LPU provide the residential facilities also?
Yes, we do provide residential services. Rather, it is one of the biggest and largest residential services inside the Asia. And the number, if you want to know about the numbers, more than 24,000 students are residing inside the campus. And it is always very convenient, very safe, very secure for both the children, boys, either girls. If it is economical also because you do not need to commute yourself from outside the university. Do not need to spend any extra money to commute yourself to your classroom, and it is very near to the classrooms, and you can easily uh, reach up to your hostel even during the lunchtime, right? So it is completely safe, completely secure. More than 300 security guards are deputed over there. Post office is available within the hostels also. There are tuck shops available inside the campus, right? More than 60 ATMs are available inside the hostels. So such provisions, such facilities would not be possible if you are going to stay outside the campus. And moreover, we are taking responsibility. If we are taking your responsibility, that fully means that we own our responsibility, and we are you know we are liable to assure that we are providing you home away from your home, right? So yes, there is residential services inside the university.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashish Kumar Sharma. I hope all the participants got the answers from our experts. As we come to the end of this webinar, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our experts for sharing their valuable insights and expertise with us. Your presence, enthusiasm, and active participation have made this experience truly special. Hopefully, the attendees found this webinar to be valuable and will be able to utilize the information for better decision making regarding admissions. If anyone wants to access this webinar again, they can visit our website, that is lpu.in, or can be accessed on YouTube also. Stay connected with us for future webinars. Until we meet again, with the permission of my seniors, I would be signing off this webinar. Take care and goodbye. Have a beautiful day.